Hi, sorry, I had a trigger finger and I started early, actually.
No worries. No worries. Yeah, sorry. I was like, oh, I should have probably updated.
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Okay, I think let me just see if Jorge's gonna make it. Just for the AMO management and otherwise I'd say we can go ahead and get started. So yeah, Jonathan, I think we can go ahead and get rolling. Cool. Okay, so hi. It's good to see everybody at today's community meeting. I'm gonna start off this meeting by acknowledging a couple of friends of add-ons this week. So Christophe, one of our pretty hardcore localizers based in France, translated 100% of Web Extensions articles on MDN into French. So thank you, Christophe. There's more that's going to be coming. So that's really terrific. And I also wanted to give a quick shout out to Arshad. Arshad has just gotten this one Web Extensions Good First bug. Whoops, sorry, I was just trying to paste it into the agenda. So we're celebrating Arshad's getting his first Web Extensions Good First bug over the finish line. So it took about 14 days to get from like total newbie in Firefox to patch is approved and is scheduled to land in Firefox. So I just wanted to give him a round of applause. We definitely learned a lot. He learned a lot. I learned a lot. I think we all learned a lot about how we can make it a little bit easier to get folks on-ramped into contributing to the Web Extension API in Firefox. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so those are our friends of Mozilla this week. Yay. So just a couple of items for discussion this week. So last Monday, we reopened the reviewer applications for add-on reviewer onboarding on AMO. So this is with the new process where applicants are asked to take a quiz. The quiz takes about an hour to take. It's based on JavaScript and also the add-on policies that we have for Mozilla. So this is really just to determine skill set. And this is hopefully making it more objective to determine whether or not people kind of have what we're looking for when we're looking for add-on reviewers. So one person so far has passed and is being onboarded. So we'll be welcoming Trishul into the fold pretty soon. Trishal's just getting started with kind of like figuring out the tools, and we're just going over some of the policy stuff with him again, and then we'll get him in. So hopefully we'll be able to start seeing some more growth in that team soon, and that'll help provide a little bit more coverage for add-on reviews on AMO. The other thing is that Thunderbird is actively looking for add-on reviewers for addons.thunderbird.net. So I know that a couple of our reviewers from AMO have already volunteered to go help out with the Thunderbird stuff. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. But if there's anybody else who's interested in doing that, I would suggest contacting Ryan Sipes. He's the Thunderbird community manager. So they're trying to pull together some team, and they're kind of working through they're like trying to get up and running and make it like a good developer and end user experience over in Thunderbird. So definitely talk to him. Any questions about the reviewer onboarding or the reviewer group?
Sure. Are we going to continue the peer mentor program with the
I
new
would
application?
love to. Do you have time to do
Sure.
that?
Yeah, I'm up to it.
Okay, awesome. Yes, I would love to continue that. I just didn't want to. I know we've asked you for a lot recently, and I didn't want to like put more on your plate. But yeah,
Okay.
if you could help out with that, that would be super fantastic. Thank you. And then I think our next thing that we're going to do is try to get a couple more mentors. So it's a little hard right now because only like Sylvan, I think you're one of the folks who's been around the longest. So hopefully with the new batch, we'll be able to like grow some folks into joining the mentor group soon. Yeah. And then, okay. And then I'm going to turn it over to Mike to talk a little bit about web extensions in Firefox 63.
Thanks, Kaylin. So Firefox 63 moves from nightly to beta a week from today, I believe, on September 4th. As part of that, I'll be putting together my usual blog post that details what new features are coming to web extensions in the new beta version of Firefox so that extension developers can get a preview of what's coming up before it hits release. That blog post will go up this Friday. It's not quite ready yet, but just some of the highlights, and I especially wanted to highlight these first two things. Extension support for multi-select tabs. So Firefox 63 will implement multi-select tabs where you can either command or control click on a series of tabs, and then you can close all those tabs, you can refresh all those tabs, you can drag a set of tabs into a new window. That's a feature that's going to be in Firefox 63, but Oriole actually ended up implementing extensive extension support for multi-select tabs also. So when 63 gets to release, not only will users have multi-select tab support, but extension developers will also be able to handle multiple selected tabs via the Web Extensions API. So huge thank you to Oriole for doing a lot of work on the multi-select tabs front. It's going to be a huge addition to Firefox. Along similar lines, Tim Nguyen, also known as NTim, if you see him on IRC, he's been a consistent contributor to the Themes API. And in 63, once again, he's delivering a whole bunch of new and improved theming API. There's some fixes specifically for like background alignments, but he's also got a bunch of enhancement to themes that let you theme things like sidebars that you couldn't theme before. So again, a shout out to Tim for doing a huge amount of work to improve our theming architecture in the Web Extensions API. A couple other things. So asynchronous clipboard support will land for web extensions. If you're familiar with clipboard support in web extensions right now, it's a little bit of a hacky thing where you call exec command and you do cut, copy, and paste. But now we are actually going to get native clipboard support for web extensions that let you use the native DOM APIs as spec'd out by the W3C in the draft specification. The DOM team and one of their interns, that I wish I remembered her name, but I don't remember her name right now, did a fantastic job of implementing that, and that'll be a huge benefit for developers. But they don't have to use the hacky asynchronous or hacky exec command way of doing this anymore. On the search side, Mark Capley, a Mozilla employee who's been really engaged with the enterprise community, ended up landing some new search APIs that will let you enumerate built-in search engines in Firefox and then submit queries to those search engines and have the results displayed either in an open tab or a new tab. That'll be fun for developers to play with, I think. And then finally, we are going to get some improved keyboard shortcut support. So you've always been able to supply keyboard shortcuts for extensions, but there's never been a good way to manage them, especially if you have conflicts between extensions. So Mark on the engineering add-ons team actually did quite a bit of work along with Manuela on our UX team to implement some visuals to show what the current keyboard shortcuts are, and as well as allow users to change them to different keyboard shortcuts in case you do have conflicts. That's been a highly requested feature ever since we got keyboard shortcut support. So that'll be something that should help developers and actually make user experience pretty significant. There's a few other miscellaneous just bug fixes, a couple other things. They'll all show up in the blog post, like I said, this Friday. But I think 63 is actually going to end up being one of our larger and more significant web extension API upgrades since Quantum released last November. So I think folks will enjoy it.
Nice, nice. Love those upgrades. Yeah, I was looking at the report of like bugs that had been fixed for 63 in web extensions, and like Oriole just totally powered through all those multi-select tabs. It was insane. I was like, oh my gosh, like all of these multi-select tabs. It was just like Oriole was like, I'm on it.
Yeah, he did awesome. Really, really thankful for his input on 63. He did an amazing amount of work.
Nice, nice, super cool. Well, that's some really good news. And then I know it's a little further away, but like for Firefox 64, then I know we're considering the web extensions API to be pretty mature at this point, but obviously there's still a little bit more work going into 64. So are we thinking that like 64 is going to be like a similar boost, or like just a little less?
Probably not quite as significant. The big thing we're shooting for on 64 is really going to be to better support media in extensions. So this goes for playing audio and video from an extension. This goes for supporting sharing the camera, the microphone, and screen via WebRTC in web extensions. And you can kind of do it today, but the big thing about it is going to be showing permission dialogues and making users aware when an extension wants to use the camera or the microphone, and giving that user control of the ability to share it via an extension. Then once you have shared it, another way to unshare it if you've changed your mind. So there's a lot of user interface and UX work around being able to use audio, video, camera, microphone, and screen sharing from extensions. So that'll be the big push for 64.
Okay, nice, super nice. All right, any questions for Mike about upcoming web extensions?
I have one regarding the search API. If I'm not mistaken, Mike, it's read-only. The methods are read-only. There's no way to add search engines or to set one by default, right? Those are done by the manifest of your extensions.
They're not quite read-only. So what you said is true, but the two new API that are added is one is to enumerate all the search engines installed in Firefox, and then second, to be able to submit a query to one of those search engines. So that's not quite read-only, but it doesn't allow you to modify or change your default search engines. You're correct about that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna shift gears a little bit into some info about Good First bugs. So just as mentioned above, we are trying to get a couple more contributors in contributing to web extensions Good First bugs. That's been an area that we've kind of had open for a while, but we haven't seen a lot of activity in. And part of the reason is because it's really hard to contribute code to Firefox. There's just a lot going on, and the documentation that exists out there hasn't really been very helpful for folks who are specifically interested in web extensions, especially getting like the very baseline of like getting started, like once you build Firefox, what happens next. So kind of the nice thing about watching a couple of folks dive in at this point is that we now have a better set of instructions about what your first initial steps are in order to like create your development environment, find the code that needs modification, and ask for help and ask for a review. So I've been working with Rob, Wu, and Luca on that. Rob and Luca are two of our really strong mentors on the engineering team. And this was kind of born out of watching them have to like basically repeat them, like have to copy and paste the same thing into several bugs at a time. So what we're going to try to do is just take that information and make it a public resource and have it be available for people who are interested in making contributions. So that's in progress right now. We're still going to continue promoting web extensions, Good First bugs, and hopefully being able to grow the community a little bit more, especially since as like some of the bigger web extension stuff gets implemented, it'll be nice to have some folks who feel like they can, or who like have the ability to come in and make additional contributions or bug fixes. So that's where we are with web extensions, Good First bugs. The other thing is good first bugs on AMO right now are a little hard to come by. There's a lot of bugs out there with new features, but not a lot of them are great for beginners. So we're now kind of at capacity, and this might change, but I just want to let folks know that like we have new folks who want to come into the system who we can't assign to a bug at the moment. So just be aware of that and plan accordingly, especially if you're trying to encourage other people to get into the ecosystem. There may not necessarily be a lot of availability, which actually leads me to a question for Jorge, which is, I mean, maybe this is also a question for Stuart, but is there a possibility that we could maybe start promote, like Shivam, Shivam's been doing a lot of, like, he's been doing like 10 bugs a month, which is awesome and seems pretty familiar with the code base. Is there how we can promote some of the contributors who have like a better handle on this into like good second bugs?
You mean like labeling good second bugs in the repo?
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I'm just wondering like if there's a way to like hand over some like slightly more complicated bugs to them.
So we don't have a label right now. I think like just asking on the AMO IRC channel at that point would be good. Like the engineers might have some suggestions.
Okay.
Yeah, the other way is just looking over the issues on the repo and just ask, can I take this? And I think probably the engineers know at this point, like, oh, he knows like more than someone who's just starting, so they can pick something. They can figure out if it's something they can take or not.
Okay. Yeah, that would be cool. So maybe I should just swing by the AMO IRC channel today and just let folks know that this might be coming in, or that they might see some folks coming in and asking for some more challenging projects.
Yeah, I feel like coming up with like labels and process might be too much because we're only talking about a couple of people. So yeah, I think it'd be more one-to-one kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Go for it, Shivam.
Yeah, I think the label is built about the setting.
That's right. We do have the contrib welcome tag. I don't know how often is it. Yeah. Okay. So maybe what we could do, because we have contrib welcome instead of, yeah, the good second bug, just if anything looks a little bit more complicated. But yeah, like Jorge said, if there's something a little bit more challenging that you kind of want to dig your teeth into, just go ahead and ask, and we'll see if we can start sending those your way. You can do that a little bit more. Okay, so any questions about good first bugs or code contributions to the ecosystem? Okay, I will take that. Okay, cool. And then the last thing I wanted to say is, so we're taking a closer look at what we're now calling product pages on AMO. So these used to be known as the add-on listings. And I think in all the documentation they're still called add-on listings. But we have a couple of things that might be changing to help with SEO, so search engine optimization. So this is how folks can find your extension when they search the internet and also when they search on AMO. So this is probably more like a general note for everyone who's running extension workshops, and that is once you get people building extensions and submitting them to AMO, I would ask that you take a look at the MDN documentation for how to create an appealing listing and start training the developers how to write compelling content. To get users to excited about their extension. So things that we're trying to, like we want to make sure that the descriptions have content that makes it clear what the benefit to the user is, that highlights the main features. We want to make sure that the summary kind of encapsulates like what the add-on does. So sometimes we come across these on AMO and we're not really sure and users aren't really sure, and then nobody's happy because nobody knows what it does. So that is my ask for everybody who's taking a look at that. And yeah, Jorge, are there any other updates about the product pages?
No, there's a lot coming, but I wouldn't expect any of that to crystallize until next year.
Okay. Also fair. Also fair. So I'll put a link to that article in the agenda so folks can take a look at it. But yeah, just one other thing to keep in mind. Yeah. Okay, and I see Siobhan has a question. Thinking about starting a video series on how to solve bugs on AMO front end. Will it help new people start with AMO? That is a good question, and the answer is it might. We've seen somebody do that. He's a contributor named Sean Prashad, who's also pretty active on the AMO front end repo. He did a video on like solving a couple of good first bugs, and he shared it with his classmates in college. They were all taking a class together, and a lot of people got really excited. And so a couple of his classmates came in and started contributing. I think he ended up getting like 3 or 4 of his classmates to contribute, and one of them like stuck around for a pretty long time. So it's possible. You would want to know like who your target audience is, and you would probably want to like share it with your group. I don't think at this point we have like a really good way of sharing it, but yeah, if you want to create it and see what happens, go for it. So at this time, I'll open the floor up for any discussion or conversation or questions. Okay, good times. Then I think we can wrap it up for today, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Thanks everybody for joining today.
Bye-bye.
Bye.